Hello, my name is Annette Fettman, Annette Sherman Fettman. I was born in December 1925, September 14th, 1925, and my mother was only 18 years old. Her name is Fanny Sherman Chunovic now, and my father was Max Sherman. My mother came from Russia when she was about 2 years old. She was born in 1907, so in June she's going to be 100, God willing. And my father also came from Russia, but he was already 16. He came to avoid the Tsar's army. My father was I believe he started a Standard Oil company in Indiana, and then he went into the plumbing business. And then in time he established a business of plumbing and heating, wholesale and retail supplies. My mother was a housewife. My parents got married. My mother was only 17, excuse me. But in those days, I guess it was not uncommon. And
Annette, did you have any sisters and brothers?
I was the oldest, and I have two brothers, Irvin and Jack.
And where do they live?
Jack still lives in the Calumet area, Munster, Indiana. And my older brother, Irvin, he was a physicist at Argonne National Labs in Illinois. He retired, and they live in Las Vegas. So I have three nieces there. So we have people to visit, but we haven't visited lately, but God willing we will.
Cantor, tell me about yourself.
I was born 1925, March 27th, in Nyíradony, Hungary. It's a small town. There were about 38 or 40 Jewish families. My father's name was Jacob, and my mother's name was Fanny. And they were murdered both in Auschwitz in 1944.
What kind of work did your father do, Cantor?
My father had a grocery store, and we had a farm. Two non-Jewish families worked for us. The farm was about 15 kilometers from our home.
And what kind of crops did they raise on the farm?
Corn, potatoes, and grapes.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
I had two brothers and one sister. And I'm alone now. Nobody is alive from my family.
When did you come to the United States?
When did you come?
When did I come?
You came from Canada.
See, this is what Alzheimer's does to you. You can't remember. I came to
About 1960, 61.
To Canada.
No, when you came to the United States.
Okay.
You were in Canada about
I was in Canada for
12 years.
12 years. I lived in Montreal and in North Bay, Ontario.
Tell me about your life in Canada. What did you do when you first arrived?
I'm thinking, if I can remember.
You got behind a sewing machine.
I was in Canada, I was
Taylor.
a tailor, and I went to the yeshiva. And what else?
What kind of education did you get at the yeshiva? You became a cantor?
I became a cantor
And a rabbi.
and a rabbi.
Did you work in a congregation at that point then?
In Canada?
Not until you moved to North Bay. The first 8 years you were in Montreal,
Yeah, in North Bay I had my first position as a cantor and a rabbi,
full-time position.
full-time position.
And where did you meet?
I did my book.
No, I want you to tell me.
We met in Chicago. It was a blind date.
What were you
Very
doing in
blind.
Chicago?
Well, I lived in Gary, Indiana, which was close to Chicago. And a friend of mine who was a shochet,
He was a moil.
a
too.
moil, Mr. Wolf, and he said to me,
Noble.
I want you to meet someone to get married. And I'm not interested in marriage. And tell me about her. She has 6 children.
Wait, excuse me.
What?
I have 6 children. When I married you, I had 6 children.
She has 4 daughters. I said, I'm not interested.
Forget it. Noah Wolf, who was, I guess he's not a moil now, maybe. But I lost my first husband after about 11 years of marriage, and
How many children did you have
I
at
had
that?
4 girls.
4 girls.
The baby was 9 months old the day before George died.
Tell me about your children.
Oh, they're wonderful now. They're wonderful. They're giving me great grandchildren.
Where do they live, Annette?
They live in Middletown, New York, our oldest daughter. She's married to a conservative rabbi, but they're very observant. And she has 2 sons. The oldest is Yoni. He's working on his doctorate in clinical psychology, and he's working with Girls and Boys Town here. In fact, he was just here in February. And he has a son that's almost 4, Hillel, who's delightful, and now twins, Sarit and Ezra. And they have a son, Ami, and his wife, Ronit. And they're working for New York University Med Center. And they're expecting now. That's the news. It came with Purim. Renana is in Cincinnati, and she has 2 stepsons. She went through bone marrow transplant almost 2 years ago, and we're very pleased that she's doing pretty well. Miriam is up in Rochester, and she'll be coming to visit us after Pesach. And Martin is in Phoenix, and Jack is in Brooklyn, in Flatbush, and he's going to be a grandfather in the next few weeks. He has 3 daughters, and Atara got married last June, and she and Ari are expecting a baby soon. And the last, but not least, is Rachel Rachel. She lives in Harno, Jerusalem. Her husband is a dentist, goes to yeshiva in the morning and then is in the office. She has 4 children. Yosef is not married yet. Javi is 23, and she and her husband, her baby, are coming to visit us after Pesach. And Baruch Freidel is studying graphic arts now. And Nissi is a young man of 16, I guess. Right. So that's our family.
And Cantor, do you have children?
Yeah, the 2 boys.
I have 2 boys.
And where are they?
One lives in Phoenix, and he is single. He wants to stay happy. and Jack lives
In
in
Flatbush.
Flatbush.
When I talked about our children, I talked about all 6 of them, because we raised them together. For 9 years, we had all 6 of them in the house. And somehow we survived.
Do you see the children very often?
Well, they visit us often, and we'll go now for Pesach. We'll see them before and after, during part of the holiday.
You're going away for Pesach? Are you?
Yes.
Where are you going?
We go to an adult camp in the Poconos. It's a very informal adult camp with services and very nice.
And does the Cantor get to participate in the Seder?
No,
In the Seder, yeah.
I said yes.
Yeah. He's invited to participate in the service, but he hasn't felt up to it.
Now, what brought you to Omaha?
Rabbi Nadoff.
My position, yeah.
Did you know him before?
No, I didn't.
You knew of him, though.
I know of him.
He had a good reputation.
And we worked together for, what is it, 18 years. We were very close.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Rabbi Nadoff.
As I mentioned in the beginning, lately I find it very difficult to speak, to recall it, to remember. And my memory isn't so good. I'm taking pills for memory, if I remember to take it.
He still has a sense of humor.
Do you recall much of those years?
Oh, yes.
Tell me a little about that.
Well, it was prepare for Shabbos dinner and be prepared to get out of the house and go up for late Friday night services. Dress and go. I was always with him.
Was it a long walk from your home here to the synagogue?
Well, going it's 7 blocks, coming back it's only 2. It's up the hill.
Up the hill.
It isn't really long, but he used to say it.
But Omaha has become home for you, hasn't it?
Yes.
We've been here over 31 years or so, yeah. We've been here longer than any other place, so it's really...
Annette, what do you recall growing up as a young girl at your home with your parents?
Well, I was taking art lessons and this lesson and that lesson, tap dancing. What do we call? We had a little shul. We were in they called it like a satellite city. At one time, it was like a suburb of Chicago. It was in Indiana. Whiting, Indiana was right out of the big city. So we could have advantages of downtown Chicago. At the same time, we were small-town people. So...
Did you grow up in a religious home?
Not really. I mean, everybody, there wasn't Orthodox, Reform, conservative.
And I know
it was a kosher home, to an extent. It was a kosher home, and we all belonged to this little, this congregation. My father helped build the new synagogue because he was, had the plumbing and heating connections. My mother was very, she got involved with Hadassah, and she, half of the book that they put out every year, she got the ads from all the suppliers that my father was involved with. And then when they started with the Israel bonds, she was on the street walking with the bond salesman to help get money from the banks, contributions and bonds from Israel. So she has a plaque in her room from Israel bonds.
Were there many Jewish families in the community?
At that time, there was about 125 Jews, I think. Not Jewish families, but...
Tell me about your education.
Well, I went to the University of Wisconsin, and I majored in art, and of course they said, well, you can't make much of a living being an artist, so you should go into art education. And So that's what I did. One of the things we did was we won a first prize on an ice sculpture. And I still have a picture of it. My mother had a picture of it. The theme was Sun Valley or Bust, so we came up with the idea of doing Lady Godiva on a polar bear in ice.
That had to be a cold experience, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of hot chocolate and coffee. And then after I graduated, my parents had decided they were going to move to Los Angeles. The Sherman family had moved out west, and my father thought he would like that. But they didn't want me to, get involved with any young man in the Midwest. So right after graduation, we made the move to Los Angeles, and we were in Los Angeles for a couple of years. I had to go back to UCLA to get a teaching certificate to teach in California. Once I got the certificate, I ended up teaching in Watts, Los Angeles, which is South Central Los Angeles. After I left, they rioted, okay? It was really an educational experience. I would say about 95% of the students were black, 50% of the teachers were black, and maybe 4% were Mexican, 1% white or something. But it was really an education for a middle-class American Jew to be in that situation.
Did you find that teaching art to these children, they were interested?
Well, sometimes I ended up teaching Zum Gali Gali. I don't think they were that interested. A lot of times the crayons ended up on the radiators melting. So I wasn't really prepared for this, but it was an education. And I found out that, it was at that time, 1949, 48, 49, black was not beautiful. And two girls were fighting, one called the other one jet black or something, and they were scratching at each other. And I saw the blood on one girl, and I said, look, the blood's the same color. And it seems like this Indian chief says, I have the same, blood as you. I'm human too. So, and there were, I know when I went down on the bus, there was a sign, Lux makes your skin lighter, So it was a different time. At the end of that year, I got married. I met someone who I knew from Wisconsin. The young men came out to the west, they said, go west, young men. So I met a friend who I knew from since I was 16. And we met at the Hillel grad meeting and started dating, and eventually we married. And after we married, we decided to come back to the Midwest, so we settled back in Indiana, right out of Chicago.
And what was your then husband doing for a living?
He took a position with his father-in-law in my father's business. As it turned out, it didn't work out with my parents, with my father being away from the business. He thought he had a manager that he could work with, but it didn't work out, and he thought he could do something in California. And so we came back, and then my parents came back to the Midwest. So that's what he did.
That leads us up to the time when you met the Cantor.
Well, no, then there was 11 years,
That-
yeah. Yeah. In between that time, I had 4 children, that's okay. Yeah.
Was it kind of love at first sight when you met the Cantor?
No.
But you started seeing each other from then on.
Was it? Yes. In fact, I was thinking about that. I came to pick him up at the train. He was living in Gary, and we moved to the south side of Chicago. So I picked him up, and I had this snood. Remember, we used to wear the big hairdos, and I had this snood on. And he said, I think he felt something then. He saw me pick him up in the car.
And that was the beginning.
That was the beginning.
How soon after that did you marry?
In December. That was in the spring. And we got married December 9th, 1962.
In Chicago?
Yes.
And where did your life go from that point? Were you still working?
I was working. I had 6 kids. I was working. We lived in Gary. Leo was working at the temple, which was the Orthodox synagogue. And we bought a home there about a block from the synagogue. And he was not the cantor. He was teaching, because the rabbi had a wonderful voice, and the rabbi did the cantorial work. You were just in the choir with Noah and Phil Silverstein, with Noah Wolf and Phil Silverstein. And during the high holidays, he had a position in Iowa City. And we decided that, it wasn't a favorite thing to have him go away for the holidays, now that he had a family and a wife that he loved. So we looked for something more permanent, and came across an ad that Madison, Wisconsin was looking for a cantor. And that's where I'd gone to school. That's where I spent 4 years, and I said, well, let's look into it. It's a nice community. And that's what we did.
How long did you spend in Madison?
We were there 11 years. We were there 11 years.
All this time as a cantor?
Yes.
You're
Cantor,
talking, I
teacher.
can't talk.
Oh, okay.
What?
All right.
No, you do the talking.
You can't talk. I'm not taking you away from you.
No.
Well, if there's anything you want to, add.
You remember the rabbi's name in Madison?
Oscar Fleischaker, when we started.
Was it an Orthodox synagogue?
Yes.
It was. But then at the 10th year or so, they were becoming more conservative, and they hired Rabbi Zwelling was Orthodox, but after Rabbi Zwelling, the next rabbi, they were becoming more conservative, and Leo was not feeling comfortable there. So we answered an ad for Omaha. Remember that?
Yep.
And then we got a letter back that they had hired somebody. So, okay. Then about a year later, Leo gets a call. Are you still, yeah, can you tell him?
You tell. I can't.
You can't. Oh, I'm sorry. Leo got a call from Dr. Haskell Morris, who I believe was the head of the Cantor Search Committee, if he's still looking for a position. And he said yes. And from there, well, it's in the book, I think. He said, how old is the rabbi? You remember that?
Yeah.
And the rabbi was on the phone. How old do you think I am? How old should I be? Because the rabbi had come into our synagogue in Madison, which was Beth Israel Center, was a young rabbi, which didn't appreciate Leo, I think. So they became a great pair. We made the move. The move was hard for me first, but
How did you like the Omaha community when you got here?
well, I was a little out of it for a while. But after I got into it and I started take classes at Creighton in sculpture. It just happened that when the car was available, I ended up in Father Luber's foundry class, so I learned the basics of sculpture, and then I got involved with supervising the kitchen at the Jewish Community Center, and eventually the Blumkin Home. So I think I did that for about 15 years. I wanted to continue with my artwork, so I asked Ida Banner to assist me with the supervision so I could take off a couple days to go to my artwork, to the studio. And after about 8 years at Creighton, I moved down to Bellevue University and studied there with Les Bruning. So I hope to continue.
What kind of work have you been doing in art?
Well, I was doing, I wasn't sure what foundry is, but I ended up, I learned to cast in bronze and aluminum, to work in wax and make a plaster mold from a clay model and then into wax and then cast in bronze. And most of my work has a Jewish traditional theme to it. Most of it does. I did some Holocaust memorials. One is in the new Beth Israel Synagogue building, which was in a competition for a memorial in central New Jersey. So,
Are you keeping busy to this day with your artwork?
not too much. I hope that I'll be able to continue to spend a little more time with it, because I have two people to take care of, my husband and my mother.
Now, Omaha, you said, has become home to you.
Yes,
You feel very comfortable in Omaha.
yes,
And the people, you've had a good experience
Yeah.
with the people here.
yeah.
Let's talk a little more about your children and grandchildren.
Oh.
Tell me about them.
Well, Aviva is teaching systematic training of for effective parenting. It's called the STEP program. She has a card here, tired of yelling. And she has a website, and right now she's teaching 4 classes. And she's very excited about it. The hard part about her work is getting the classes together, doing the advertising and getting the classes together. Once she gets into teaching, she feels that she's serving a purpose, making parents good parents and enjoying their children instead of fighting with them. So she raised 2 wonderful grandsons for us. We can't complain about them, can we? Very thoughtful young men. Our oldest grandson was just 30 last week.
How many total grandchildren do you have?
We have, how many do we have? 9.
And great-grandchildren?
We have 4 and 2 on the way. One is the youngest one now is in Israel, and he's coming to meet us, visit us, God willing, after Pesach. So, yes, I have pictures all over the place.
Annette, in the years you've been here in Omaha, have you done a lot of traveling?
Yes, I think we've seen more of the state of Nebraska and some of Iowa that most native Nebraskans have seen. My husband is a Holocaust survivor, and he felt after what he'd been through that he had a purpose in life, and that was to perpetuate the story of the Holocaust. Since what he survived, there was a reason for his survival. Besides marrying me with, what would I do with, we've been all over the state, from Hay Center to Ord to Callaway. Callaway was interesting. There was when we came there, we stopped for gasoline, and there was a sign up that said the Cantor's going to speak. And there were 596 people in Callaway. But we were told that the Ku Klux Klan was founded there, and they had a little museum, and in the museum there was a plaque. But what they've done, we didn't get to go to the museum, but they said we pulled a chest in front of the plaque to come. I thought that Leo should speak at the old age home instead of the high school, but he spoke in the high school. So we've been just about all around the state, not quite out to Scottsbluff. I think there are some survivors out in the west that they've tapped into out that far. But you name it, we've been there. Lately we stayed overnight in O'Neill and went up to Spencer, which is almost in South Dakota. And they were so excited to have him.
How was your reception in these various towns?
Oh, wonderful.
And you felt that you really delivered a message?
Yes. We're still in touch with Grand Island, and we used to go there we'd stay for 2 nights and go to the high school, and used to go to the Catholic high school, as well as the public school, and to the middle school, Walnut Middle School and Bar Middle School. And this week we're going to do a webcam with Bar Middle School. We've also been in Yankton. I did exhibit up in I had a part of an art exhibit up in Vermilion. We were in, one of the first places we went to was Mount Marty College in Yankton, South Dakota. And we stayed over in the bishop's quarters. And we had holy water at the door. Remember? And I stole a line from somebody else. I came along so my husband wouldn't get in the habit, because we stayed in the convent. And another convent we stayed up was in Norfolk. We became acquainted with Father Steve Bays, who is now the director of Girls and Boys Town. He was a teacher up in Norfolk, and he invited us up there several years ago. And since then, we've been friends with Steve. So he wrote a nice little thing in our book. And we stayed up there in a convent. So we've been around. In Iowa, we've gone to Storm Lake several times. We have friends up there. And with our friends up there, Jim and Sally, for a minute I can't think of their last name. They wanted to go out to see the Postville koshering area. So we took a trip with them. We drove up there and we drove over to Postville with them. They also have, in Storm Lake, they have a situation where they have a lot of Mexicans and the idea of the cultures blending and so on. So it's been interesting.
How about foreign travel? Have you been to Israel?
We've been to Israel 7 times. First, just as tourists, and then as parents of children who were studying there. Rachel and Jack were both studying there one year, and then visiting our children and grandchildren. So one year there was a Hungarian gathering there. You want to talk about that, Leo? He met, we attended the Hungarian gathering, and he met a couple people from his hometown, including Cantor Friedlander and the rabbi, and that was an interesting experience.
That had to be quite an emotional
Yes.
gathering.
Did you mention that you were in Hawaii?
I'm getting to Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
So you mentioned.
No, you may. You were in Hawaii 7 times, and I discovered that you can become a millionaire in Hawaii in 1 year if you go with 2 million.
We had just been to Israel, and someone told us that we had so many air points free. We could take a free flight to Hawaii, and TWA was going to go bankrupt, so you better use them. So we just been to Israel. Leo said, "Let's go to Hawaii." And in Hawaii, we made the connection on the Big Island with a congregation, and then Leo had a position there for the next few years for the high holidays. So that was quite interesting. It was kind of like God led us there. We went to, of course, Oahu and Honolulu, and we looked for a place to go for Shabbos, and we went to Chabad. And when the rabbi found out that we were going to the Big Island the following week, he told us to look up Scott and Sarit, newlywed couple there that were becoming frum, and that's what happened. Actually, we were supposed to go to Kauai, but there was a hurricane, and the place that we were supposed to stay was partly destroyed. So God's finger led us to the Big Island and to Scott and Sarit, and from that we ended up with working in Hawaii for the high holidays.
Did you play a role in training the kids for bar mitzvah?
Yeah, I do.
In Hawaii? Yes.
To speak.
It's big.
I can't.
He was speaking at the Hawaiian Academy, and the Hawaii Preparatory Academy, and two Jewish young men came over to him and kind of cornered him, and they said, "We have sons that are 12 that we need to prepare. We would like them to have a bar mitzvah." And Leo said, "Well, how about the rabbi in Honolulu? The rabbis in Honolulu." And apparently they had approached them, but they weren't particularly interested. And so Leo worked with the boys with tapes, and they would call in Sunday morning, and he'd listen to them on Sundays. And then we went in. We decided to go in a month before, and we made the Hawaii Preparatory Academy Library the Hebrew Preparatory Academy, and he worked with the families and the boys, and we did a Friday night dinner with the families. Somehow we squeezed them into that little apartment that they had for us, and it was quite an experience.
That had to be very rewarding.
And we're still in touch with the families. One family moved back to the States, and the Scott and Sarit also, they started to raise a family, and they're back in San Diego. And Scott is on the board of the synagogue, and Sarit now is office manager. And they have two children, two beautiful children, Chantel and David. So that's something. Map indicates places where Leo has spoken, and there are a few there at universities that had the book in their curriculum. These are towns and little steeples, little places where Leo has spoken in Nebraska and part of Iowa. This is the first bronze that I did over at Creighton, and they represent the survivors of the camps. My husband had no stone to remember his parents, and he asked me to do something. And eventually I found out how to do this racco firing, and it just turned out that it's Yaakov and Fega Esther Fettman, 1944. This I call Outcry. This piece is in terracotta. As I say shalom, I'd like to leave a special message to our children and tell them how much we love them, and especially to the wonderful grandchildren that they've given us, and the extra special great-grandchildren that they have given us and will give us. It's something special. I think having grandchildren, great-grandchildren is wonderful. So thank you so much, and we love you.
My wife spoke for me too. I love you too.